Welcome into a brand new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's CJ Cup. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there, Joe Idoni. Joe, we're back at it again with a small field, but it does not start on Wednesday night, which is nice.
Yeah, we don't have to. You're right. We don't have the middle of the night tournament this week. We are back. We are not in Korea for the CJ Cup this year. We're back at Congaree in South Carolina, which was an exciting course last time. I'm happy that they were able to find a way back here in this current format. Small field event, no cut. Let's roll once again.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here from the Jock Market side of things. So 78 player field, that kind of adjusts the payout structure a little bit. There is a promo code. It's called POWER. It gets you a $100 deposit bonus. There's a link in the description. We're playing stock market DFS. The two other big announcements, Joe, one revolves around IPO shorting. That is something that we knew would be coming for weeks. It finally rolled out like right as we went live last week. I think we've gotten our feet wet a little bit and have a better understanding of it for it this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got everyone. It should be, as long as your app is updated, should be fully available to you, whether you're using the web platform or the mobile app. It is fully ready to go for the IPO hour over the next 45 minutes. So basically what it allows you to do is play both sides of this thing. If you think a player is going to outperform their expectation, that would make them a buy. If you think that they're going to underperform where that current price puts their expectation level, you can also short. So I think it will give us a better balance in terms of people being able to play both sides of the fence on each and every player. It should keep pricing a little bit more fluid and reasonable on both sides of things. So it's an exciting addition that I think we were waiting for and people were clamoring for quite a while to be able to play both sides of the market. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, so when you go in to create a short sell, your short will get filled as long as your ask price is at or below what the final IPO price is. So you obviously can't say, hey, I'm going to short Scotty Scheffler at $24. Like, yeah, no kidding, because $25 is the first place payout. So what happens is as long as your ask is at or below the final IPO, it gets filled. So here's an example. So Scotty Scheffler, likely to close, I don't know, $9 or $10, maybe $10 or $11. If you short him at $9, you're basically almost guaranteed to get that filled at $10, which is better for you. And then you pay the difference. And then we see how it all shakes out depending on where Scotty Scheffler actually finishes within the tournament.
Yep, exactly right. That was a good way of putting it. So essentially, like you said, if the IPO is for 10 and you want to short those shares, you will actually pay 15, because the difference if he finishes first place is a $25 payout, which is the max amount you can win. You pay that 15, and at that point, you're just basically hoping for him to not finish in the top 10. Anything 11th through 78th in this field will be gravy for you.
Yeah, it actually makes the whole like fair value finishing position thing a lot easier on the short side of it as the buys are rolling in, especially as we get closer to 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight. They come in hot and heavy, and you're constantly doing that like, $9.11. What does he have to finish for that? If you just set your short for whatever you want. Oh, I think Scotty's going to finish outside the top 12, outside the top 14, whatever it is. It kind of makes it a lot easier for at least, I think, for most people to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're kind of playing the other side of the fence as the tournament goes on, and you can always get back in. As you mentioned before, this thing is live throughout all 72 holes of the golf tournament. So once the tournament begins, you can add shares, you can continue to short shares based on what players have them on. So really an open market, and it's live right now.
Yeah, I'll give you a tangible look at what this market did for last week. Keegan Bradley, the winner of the Zozo Championship, so he got the full $25 per share payout. His IPO last Wednesday was $803. Andrew Putnam, who fell short on Sunday, still paid out $20 a share for that second place finish. And with his IPO at $555, Joe, nearly $15 of profit per share for Putnam, who didn't win. Similar price and similar result for Ricky Fowler. He was also in the $5 range.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. There's two 2, 3, and 4 were all pre-ranked 35th, 36th, 37th there in the pre-rank. So as you noted, the pre-rank does matter. So Andrew Putnam being ranked a little bit ahead of Ricky Fowler there got him that extra $2 per share payout. We'll talk about that as we move closer toward the end of IPO, but something to definitely pay attention to, as it does matter and breaks all ties.
And it didn't necessarily feel like Xander Schauffele had the best week, but he did enough. 55 cents of profit per share for the number one pre-ranked golfer last week. I think he ended up finishing 8th. Does that feel right to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So even Xander, who was expensive, got you a 5% return.
Yep.
All right. So the other big kind of announcement here is that, first off, Jock Market's just doing big things, Joe. They've got all these sports going. I saw they're hiring. So they're hiring a bunch of people, which is always a good sign. And
Yes.
they've released challenges. Okay. So Jock Market challenges. This is new. So this is a set of weekly challenges that, quite honestly, if you're just playing on the Jock Market, you're going to qualify for some of these points and you're going to accomplish some of these challenges. But the more that you actually complete, the more chances you have to win things. So here's how it looks for the challenges. So you compete in the challenges, you earn points for completing them, and then every single week they change and they're announced on Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. So here is the challenge that's live right now. So 1 point. You want 1 point? Trade a total of $50 this week. Now, trade a total of $50 for any sport. You get 1 point per sport. You can see here, there's 2 point bonuses. Trade at least $15 for 3 different NHL players. There is a 3 point challenge. Trade at least $50 of any player with the highest ROI in any market. And then basically, Joe, what happens is after you've gone through these challenges and you've accomplished them, depending on how many points you get, you go into these tiers for rewards where they're giving out money, they're giving out swag, they're giving out a free week of free week of trading. There's just a lot of cool stuff you can win here.
Yeah, they always do a fantastic job, Rick, and of sort of supporting new users and their old users, to making sure that they take care of people on both ends of the spectrum. Another great new sort of concept that they've introduced here to continue. It's like we were just talking before we went hot. Great time of year for sports and great time of year for Jock Market. The MLB sort of wrapping up. You have the NFL sort of long-term and short-term single game slates. You can do 4-week tournaments as well. Multi-week slates. You have basketball starting up. You have PGA, of course, NASCAR. So there's all kind of, if you're within the app, take a look at all the different free and live cash markets that they have going on. There are a bunch of ways to enjoy the app.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned it because we see an arms race in a lot of industries where it's new user this, new user that, first sign up, first deposit.
Yeah.
These challenges are for anybody. Right? If you're a Jock Market power user and you have been for 2 years, you're still eligible for this, which I think is one of the big things that is missing in this industry. Is like, hey, the people who have already signed up, like they're valuable too. They're worth it too. So good to see this from the guys over at Jock Market.
Absolutely. Great to see it added on.
All right. So this IPO tonight, it's going to close around 9 p.m. Eastern time. And that is for the CJ Cup. And you mentioned it already, Joe. We're going back to Congaree. It's a golf course that we have seen just once. It was in June of last year. And we kind of have an idea, right? So what types of players might we be looking for to fill out our portfolio this evening?
Yeah, I think it comes on, from the tee box and then the green for me. I'm looking for players who are going to be able to hit it out there far, right? 18-yard fairways in terms of width that are wider than the normal PGA Tour standard. So extremely wide. It's a long golf course. It plays quick, but I still think the distance will be an advantage. And then I think it's a make or break time kind of around the greens here. The sand is tough to get up and down from, tricky little short game areas. And of course, those sort of oil slick putting greens that we saw last summer will probably continue to be in effect with the Bermuda grass greens there. I expect it to be probably won or lost with the short game. But you can also have that big advantage, I think, off the tee to get yourself into a good position to hold some of these greens. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Have you seen anything different there that you're kind of isolating?
No, that's fair, and I think that reports from the grounds today were firm and fast, which is what you want it to be. It's built on sand. That's what they're going for. They're going for firm and fast. Last I saw, there might be some rain in the forecast for Saturday, but we'll deal with Saturday when that comes. I think
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday, hopefully, we get some fire out of this place because it's absolutely stacked at the top. I think it's like 15 of the top 20 players in the world. I like to see these guys get challenged. John Rahm doesn't want a putting contest, Joe. John Rahm wants to go out there and be challenged from tee through green. So I think this could be a very fun test for this week.
Yeah, and what we usually see in tournaments where the scoring conditions are difficult is that cream tends to rise, and it tends to, the best players in the world tend to separate. We have 17 of the top 25 in terms of OWGR here this week. So the field is absolutely stacked. You mentioned that. It looks cold too, especially tomorrow morning, and I think Friday starting off in the low 40s early in the morning. So that's a little bit unusual, I think, for South Carolina. I don't know that the players were quite expecting that, but that could play a factor as well, particularly in how the golf course plays. Those early morning tee times are going to be tough to get the body moving a little bit there.
Certainly will get the stretches in, get that lower back warmed up, and be ready to rock and roll. Let's play bullish or bearish. This is a segment of the show where we take a stance on 4 different golfers and we decide very plainly bullish or bearish. And we were joking before we went hot. We have an all American Team USA President's Cup roster for tonight. So let's start with Colin Morikawa. Fair value for him is $6.54. That's asking him to finish about 24th or better. So Colin Morikawa, bullish or bearish?
I'm going to say bearish on Morikawa. I just think that he's kind of in this mode now where it's a bit of a transition in a lot of his swinging and a lot of his confidence. And I just think we're going to see peaks. We're going to see him compete. We're going to see him potentially win. But I have a feeling we're not going to see that consistency that we were used to seeing around this time last year when he became, up there in the number 1 player in the world. So you see those, it was basically a lock, it seemed like, for a top 10, top 11 finish late last summer into the early fall here. And then just like the graph is showing there, peaks and valleys. I think that you're going to see a lot more valleys than you do a couple of peaks. The ROI has shown that, where he's a significant loser there, and it looks like probably about 12 of the last 15 markets that he's been in. I'm going to continue to say bearish and just bank on some of that volatility on someone like Morikawa, and usually you're on the other side of that.
I am likely more bullish than you, but I still think overall I'm bearish. I think longer term, I think Morikawa is going to figure it out. I think that still being an elite approach player and being a volatile putter is a good thing. I just haven't seen it, right, and it's a little bit worrisome when we've seen a lot of him recently, and it's just been okay. And now he's going to go and play against all these top guys. He usually gets into these grooves. He's back to the sim max, right? He's like changed drivers. I'm like, oh man, I just need to see him. It feels like he's searching for something.
Yeah.
And if he's searching for something, like, I'm worried about that.
Yeah, he's switching, like he went from a fade to a draw to back to a fade. So you're right. He's searching for something to kind of stick. And like we kind of alluded to, there's going to be moments where it works for him. But I think until he can really find his groove and settle back into a level of consistency, the bearish side is probably the way to go with him.
Next up, Max Homa. We're asking him to finish 19th or better based on his fair value tonight of $7.62. We saw him play very well at the President's Cup. We saw him finish T20 at the Shriners. And of course, he already has a win on this young season. Joe, is this a bullish stance or a bearish stance on Max Homa tonight?
I think I'm going to continue to ride this, man. I'm going to go bullish. Two of the last 3 just massive returns, 182% at the Fortinet. Obviously, the big win there where he was the highest priced player. 201%, actually a bigger return in terms of ROI at the Tour Championship for Max. Even the Shriners, like the fact that he has 2 top 20s this fall, and we've talked about this in the other weeks, where it's like, it's nice to see guys playing some fall events and get some reps under the belt. Even the other President's Cup guys, I have some concerns about if it's the only place that we have seen them. It's not the same format as the 72-hole PGA Tour tournament. You're alternating shot. There's best ball. It's just different, right? Max, we've seen play twice. They're both top 20s. One is a victory. I think this is a great course fit for his strengths as a player. I'm going to say bullish.
I think I am too. And here's where I am at on Max Homa. We've talked about it all the time. He's getting better and better. But when you look at this format, the kind of all around consistent style of golf that he plays, I don't think he has lost more than a stroke off the tee since this event last year. I mean, he has turned into a really good driver. We know that there were times last summer where he was the best ball striker on the PGA Tour for like a 36 or 48 round period. There's also just improvements in the short game. And what I like about that in this format is he's seemingly super safe, right? I mean, it's not like he's going to lose you all that much. I mean, that's kind of the opposite of upside is protecting on the downside. And I feel like Max Homa protects the downside more than most guys do.
It's fair.
Next up, let's go to another golfer who is dealing with a little bit of an equipment change. It's Scotty Scheffler putting a new putter in the bag this week. He's the #1 player in the world, though that could change. That could change. There's a path for Rory to get there this week. Are you bullish or bearish on Scotty Scheffler?
Okay, so at the price point where his fair value projected, which is $929, it's kind of like a teetering, like where the scales are kind of even for me. I think Rick, he's probably going to go in that $8 range because I think the public sentiment is starting to cool a little bit on Scotty Scheffler, in which case I'll present a bullish side. I actually love the putter switch for him. I don't care what it is. It's something different, and it's something that has been frustrating him, and it's something that he lost confidence in, and you could see it was wearing into other parts of his game. I think the course setup is a great fit for him. It reminds me a little bit of Bay Hill. I think it has aspects of all the difficult courses that he's always played really well on in terms of scoring conditions. I think that Rory being right on his tail, there's a couple of other guys chasing him down. I just think this is a good get right kind of spot for Scotty Scheffler to come in with a reasonable top 5 finish, which will return you a decent amount. So I'll say bullish.
I'm bearish and I'm terrified, right? I mean, I think that especially as I started the week, I saw the putting numbers, right? The idea was Scotty's going to go as far as the putter allows him to. And when he won 4 out of 7 starts, he putted great. And then after that, when he had good finishes, he was a positive putter in all of them. And that's really been the only thing that has kind of determined whether it's going to be a good week or a bad week for Scotty Scheffler. And then I see him switch to this mallet style prototype. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is either, and we've seen this, that he will either gain 5 strokes putting this week and win, or he will lose 4 and finish like T37. Like that's what's going to happen here. I'm terrified of the putter switch. I have no idea what it means. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not. I think in general, I'm more bullish than bearish. So I will just I'm really worried about this one.
Yeah, I'm worried about being bullish. So I think there's parts of being on both sides of this. So good off the tee. I really do trust his short game. It's all, like you mentioned, probably this week hinges on whether he gains strokes with the putter or loses strokes with the putter. It's probably going to have a huge impact on his final outcome.
Finally, Jordan Spieth, $6.42 is the fair value for tonight. That's a 25th place or better. I'll just tell you, I'm bullish on Jordan Spieth. I think that he's the great like winning model, right? Like he's gonna be volatile. He's gonna be able to putt, even if he doesn't putt well. He can win an event like he did at the RBC Heritage. You get him off of a 5-0-0 President's Cup at a golf course that should reward creativity, and it's got wider fairways than tour average. Like, how many more things does this, like, this just feels like a Spieth spot?
Yep. Bullish as well. Everything that you mentioned, he obviously had the win at the Heritage, which was in South Carolina. The wider fairways, I think, helps him. The increased reliance on short game is, of course, his forte in getting himself up and down in tricky situations. And like, honestly, Rick, I don't know if I'm making too much of it, but something at the President's Cup happened with the putter. And I don't know if there's strokes gained stats to back it up, but it just felt like, man, from 6 to 10 feet, he was automatic. And it's been a while since we've seen that. And he was back to his strength. He was back holding an occasional 30, 35-foot putt in huge moments. I think that was something that he really needed and was good to see. And we'll see kind of if he can carry that over into the actual PGA Tour season.
Yeah, this is his first start of the season, right? He didn't play in Napa or anywhere else. This has got to be, yes. So we'll see how Jordan Spieth does. That concludes our bullish or bearish segment. If you're just tuning in, there's a lot happening. First off, this IPO is going to close in about 25 minutes. Make sure you use the code POWER, get your deposit bonus, get involved. If you want to rewind the show, we talked about the new challenges that Jock Market unveiled and what they are for this week. That can earn you some more points and earn you a chance to win more money and swag and stuff like that. And then, of course, IPO shorting live right now. Just make sure you have the most up-to-date version of the app and you'll be ready to rock and roll. I'm almost ready, Joe, to unveil the big board here for tonight. Any thoughts on who our most expensive, highest priced golfer might be by the time this thing closes?
I think his name is going to be Rory McIlroy.
Rory McIlroy?
Not really going out on a limb there.
The betting favorite, not necessarily Jon Rahm from Joe. And I'll tell you what, Rahm's got the lead so far, but we are plenty of time away from this thing closing. $6.84 for the second pre-ranked golfer. His fair value is $9.81, so he's still $3 short of that. That indicates a 12th place finish or so for Jon Rahm. You won't see it here, Joe, on his results because it was not a Jock Market event, but he's coming off a win, right? He just won in Spain. Is that enough to kind of get the juices flowing for Rombo?
We'll see. It was nice to see him apparently putt pretty well over there and chip it pretty well, which had obviously been holding him back all of last season. I think that he's obviously due for a regression in a good way, right? So if he comes back to the mean and what we expect out of him with the putter and with his sand wedge, with his pitching wedge around the green, I think that that's going to lead to positive results for him because he's so good off the tee. He's so good with his irons. I think being a long golf course, having some long irons in is always beneficial to someone like Jon Rahm when you have a lot of 175 to 225 yard shots. If he can keep in the fairway, which by all indications he should not have a problem with, I expect him to play really well once again.
Winner in 2 of his last 3 Jock Markets. Obviously, that does not none of those are his win in Spain. Cam Young shot out of a cannon early here on this Wednesday night. $5.30 per share right now, already getting very close to his fair value, which is $5.51, and a fair value position of about 31st place. 4 straight losing cash markets for Cam Young. Have we lost the momentum? Are we buying low? It doesn't feel like we're buying low. He's already hit his fair value at $8.38. Yeah.
I'm super torn on Cam Young, Rick. I may need you to shed some light on me. So I bet him earlier in the week, and I've gone back and forth. So his strength, I don't know if it's going to be exacerbated here or if it's going to be mitigated in a way. So he's so good off the tee. He's long and he's straight. With the wider than normal fairways, do you think that can help a player like Cam Young to sort of further propel that advantage that he has, or does it bring more players up to his level? Like, I can't decide on which side of that I'm really on. If I'd rather have Cam Young on a narrow course or rather have one on super wide fairways.
So I think it kind of depends, and I think this is a better spot for him because there are some opportunities to cut corners around here, and there are some opportunities to, if you can carry it, carry some of the danger. I still think I'm a little bearish though. I mean, he hasn't been as sharp. That's very clear. He has not been as sharp. It's not just the driver. I mean, there's weeks where he's had really bad putting weeks. There's weeks where he struggled on the second shot. I'm more bearish than bullish on him at this point.
Yeah, and it felt like I kind of had this, I don't know, I had this sentiment last year of like whenever he doesn't get popular, play Cam Young. Whenever he's super popular, it's probably not the time to choose him, just because my overall sense is that his talent level is he can succeed anywhere in any field. And when he's got his A game, he's going to put himself right in contention, whether it's a major championship or whether it's the Sanderson Farms. So I think that just seeing him on so many betting cards this week, hearing his name brought up so many times, it's probably best to either lay off or maybe even short.
Big move, Rory McIlroy, now the most expensive golfer in tonight's market, $9.27 right now. Fair value, $9.95, basically a top 12 finish for Rory. The number one in the pre-rank column, that's huge. He is going to break every single tie. If he's in a 9-way tie for second, he's getting the full $20 per share payout. What's there not to like about Rory McIlroy, right? He's playing great. He could be the number one player in the world. He generally destroys Fazio courses. Man, I don't know what the negative is here.
Yeah, going for obviously number one in the world. The only really negative that I can say is he kind of talked about it today. It's basically the off season, right? Is this a spot where he's going to be firing on all cylinders in terms of his maximum preparation coming into an event? We haven't seen him much. I'm not sure exactly what he did. I know that he played either one or two events over on the European Tour, but in terms of a PGA Tour start, we haven't seen him stateside since August. Do I want to pay $10 a share in a fall event for someone that we haven't seen as much of? There's just that little bit of unknown that gives me just a hair of pause this week, but it's a perfect golf course for him. If he plays anything and brings a little bit of form into this thing, he'll almost certainly, find himself in the top 10.
Speaking of the top 10, let's look at the top 10 golfers in the pre-rank. And I can refresh this, but we still have a handful of golfers who haven't budged yet, $1 per share. That's obviously going to change, but we've got Scotty here and Victor and Matt Fitzpatrick. We've already talked about Max Homa. We have not had a chance to talk about Justin Thomas or Shane Lowry or Sung J M or any of these names in the top 10, some additional names that you'll be targeting.
Yeah, Fitz, Thomas, I like them both. I think they both have the skill sets to really compete and really do well here. Fitz, I love the fact that he was just able to take a weakness of his and really turn it into a strength with the driving distance. Now top 15 in this field of the best players in the world in terms of distance off the tee, which is shocking because we know what a good player, we know what short game he possesses, we know what a good iron player he is. We know that he's probably one of the top 3 most proficient players out of the sand. He's a great Bermuda grass putter. Also finished top 10 in the edition of the Palmetto at this event. So a little bit of knowledge around Congaree as well. So I really like Fitz and, Justin Thomas in the fall. You can usually never go wrong.
Yeah, the complete opposite of what Rory McIlroy does, right? It's like most of Justin Thomas's wins come this time of year. Fitzpatrick up to $5.01. You mentioned it there. We've seen this golf course once. It was June of 2021. It was the Palmetto Championship. How much are you considering that? We've got a handful of guys that finished inside the top 20. There's probably a dozen guys in this field this week that missed the cut at that event. Like, how much are we considering it?
So I think it's helpful in terms of analyzing skill sets for this event. I don't necessarily lean so much on the course history, but you had a great point. And there are some dog legs. And what's unique about the dog legs at Congaree versus many other stops on the PGA Tour is you fall short of the dog leg and you're in the water and you're dropping probably back by the tee box because you had to carry it over water the whole way. You miss it left and you're in the sand. So there's no rough. So it just makes a big difference in these firm fairways of the rollout that you can get. So you hit one of these wide fairways, you may get 50 yards a roll. We may see Rory, we may see Cam Young, we may see Scotty Scheffler hit a couple balls 360, 370 yards. It wouldn't surprise me. But you hit it in the water, you're re-teeing. You hit it in the sand, it's going to drop and at 290 wherever you hit it at and not roll at all. So I think just being in the fairway, being able to take advantage of properly cutting some of these corners and having a little bit of experience doing so, I think is going to be really helpful. One of the reasons that I'm kind of looking at distance off the tee is could be a big factor.
Shane Lowry's here, Joe, and I got to admit, I completely forgot Shane Lowry won the BMW PGA Championship. just a couple of weeks ago. We were out of town. It was
Me
my
too.
birthday. That event got shortened to 54 holes. I like completely whiffed it from my memory that he won that. But when you're talking about playing well, the need, or at least the benefit of being creative, right? I don't think we've really
Yeah.
talked enough about, like, there's literally zero rough on this golf course. Like,
Yeah.
every lie is a tight lie. There's a lot of these runoff areas, and I don't want to say it's links style, but it's almost like Southern Hills where everything kind of collects and it's shaved down. And I don't know, the longer we go in this week, the more excited I get about Shane Lowry.
Me too. I bet Shane Lowry this week. I think that he's probably one of the top 3 sand players in the field as well, which I think will be helpful, basically by any metric of stand saves that you look at, short or long term. And I'm the same with you. So I'm thinking, man, we haven't really seen him play well in a while. And then all of a sudden it creeps up on you like, oh, he just won the BMW. So,
Right.
yeah, he has that win under his belt. This seems to be, Rick, like the region in the Southeast where he's most comfortable. He lives down here in Jupiter now. These Bermuda grass courses, should have won the Honda last year. He's been close at the Heritage. This seems to be kind of his wheelhouse type of event. So I'm pretty bullish on his chances this week.
579 per share right now. It's $1.50 off his fair value. The fair value is asking him to finish 21st or better. All right, let me just open this up to you here, Joe, because we've got some interesting names from like 525. Terrell Hatton, Tom Kim, down to Cam Davis at $4. Keith Mitchell's in there. Tom Hoagie's in there. Are you targeting any of these guys for this evening?
Yeah, I like my boy Cam Davis. I always do, though. I've heard some people draw some comparisons to some of the Australian sandbelt courses. I think the additional width off the tee is only going to help him because he does get a little bit loose with that driver, but I have him 7th in the field of 78. So in the top 10% in driving distance. We know he's a good wedge player. We know he's a good putter. Those kind of check the boxes. What about Ricky, man? Because you and I have always like said for the last year and a half, like, let me see him stack together a couple of good performances. Well,
Yeah.
he's kind of done that. Butch says he's getting closer. He has 2 top 6s in the fall thus far. We've seen him play events. I mentioned I'm glad he stuck it out and really grinded through this because the easy way out for him, which felt like a lock, which was going to live and banking in on his popularity and that his game was gone. He didn't take that. So I'm proud of him for sort of betting on himself big time. Great to see him play well last week. Now the travel is certainly something, going from Vegas to Japan and now back to South Carolina, that maybe you factor in, maybe you don't. But certainly the form has looked better than it has in a recent bias in quite a long time.
Yeah, I get this guy wrong every time, and I'll step on the Rick. I think it's a good week for him, right? Yeah, 2 of the last 3 have been good. We're seeing signs of the game come back. This is a decent setup for him, I believe. I think I'm in on Ricky this week.
I think I am too.
You want to know what group he's playing in? Do you know what featured group he's in?
No, but he's always in featured groups. Who's he playing with?
Tom Kim, twice a winner in his last couple of starts, and someone by the name of Rory McIlroy.
Oh man, what a group!
How's that for a big boy group?
How about Tom and Rory today in the presser? That was so good, wasn't it?
So good, man. To God, Rory, I mean, you just have to love everything about Tom Kim, and Rory's just the best. So
yeah.
So easy to root for those guys. All right, let me get a little refresh here. Before I do, we're playing Jock Market, Stock Market DFS. There's an IPO open right now. You can go and bid on your shares of golfers for this week's CJ Cup. That IPO is going to close in about 12 minutes or so, about 9 p.m. Eastern time on every Wednesday, or at least most Wednesdays. And you can IPO short, you can trade and get challenges checked off. You can do a lot of fun stuff now in the Jock Market as we are closing in on the final stretch of tonight. John Rahm, Rory McIlroy carving out a spot at the top of this market. No surprise there. Let's go a little bit further down the board and see if we can find some value. Here are the guys in the $3 range, Joe. It's some guys that were popular in recent weeks, like Siwoo Kim and Sepp Straka. JT Poston's coming off of a decent finish as well. And Seamus Power is one of those guys who finished inside the top 20 last time this event was, last time this golf course hosted a PGA Tour event. Is there anything of note here in the $3 range?
Yeah, I may need a refresh, but I'm still seeing Connors and Morikawa both there at $3. Now I'm almost certain that won't stick out. JT Poston is a guy that I have favorited that I think could play well this week. Russell Henley's another one. Now these aren't necessarily long hitters, but they're accurate, right? So if you can get that rollout and you're in the fairway, you can get it down there. Just you should be fine if you hit enough fairways. Kitayama's another one I've kind of have interested in at 274. And then Sebastian Munoz, like, really got overshadowed, I think, at the President's Cup with how good that he played, beating the number one player on the U.S. team and in the world in that final Sunday's singles match. So there's good players down here in like the high $2 range. We'll see if that kind of pans out over the next 10 minutes or if they lose a little steam.
I'm going for a refresh right now, but I thought I saw, or he was down there before. Jason Day is interesting. I actually bet
Okay.
Jason Day this week.
Hmm.
Which is not something I tend to do. He's at $3.59 right now. I think he was like 70 to 1, 75 to 1. And he gained like 9 strokes ball striking at Las Vegas. And you talk about the Aussie connections. And it's just, I don't know, the game looks like it is in much better form. I think he's gained on approaching like 6 straight. So we're building something here with Jason Day. I think we should keep an eye on it. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Let's go deeper. We've got about 9 minutes and less than that because we're going to let Joe go do his thing in a second. Where is SH Kim? Here he is. $3.25. He's got a bunch of good finishes in a row. Really good stuff. He did not go to Zozo. Is that another thing you care about, Joe? Whether it's like they played in Japan or not last week?
It's hard for me to factor in because I think it's dependent upon the player, and I don't know, like, that would mess me up personally. Like me, traveling, getting out of routine and off schedule. My wife will tell you will make me quite a character. But I think some people it doesn't affect. Some guys that are used to it. So I try not to factor it in as a general rule, just because I think different guys handle it differently.
It's only 4 events, but SH Kim has never lost in the Jock Market. Never, ever, ever. Lots of big returns there. The bottom of this board, and it gets short pretty quick. We've seen Lee Hodges and Taylor Moore play well recently. They're both $2.40. We know the talent of Davis Riley. I might have to give this a refresh, but he's only $1.79 right now. Mito is $1.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to bring up. I wasn't thinking Mito this week, but I've played him in previous weeks, and I hate to be the guy that jumps off a week before he finally breaks through. That's interesting. Willett is interesting to me, $1.12. It's basically a 12-cent bet on Danny Willett, who just almost won, just finished runner-up at the Fortinet. I think he plays his best down here in the Southeast, in South Carolina, in Georgia, in Florida. He makes his home in Jacksonville now. Like, this could be a good fit for him too, on a player with maybe one of the tidiest short games in the field.
We have a very mature market right now. There's about just changed about 6 minutes to go in this IPO. Rory McIlroy, $9.56. He is very close to his fair value of $9.91. John Rahm is $9.12. He's very close to his fair value of $9.79. And then a huge gap to everyone else. Is there anyone here, Joe, whether it's Sungjae or Victor or Keegan, fresh off a victory, that we haven't spent as much oxygen on as maybe we should have?
I think we've kind of covered everyone. I mean, we didn't talk much about Victor. He kind of had a very quiet, solid top 5 performance at the Zozo. Kind of started to round things back into form over the fall. So he's down there at 617 as the 4th ranked pre-ranked golfer, which is, the cheapest of anyone inside that top 5 by a decent margin. Let me ask you this, Rick. If you're sorting by kind of IPO price there, who would maybe be a guy that you think has some value to short at their current price, or where you think it's going to end up? Like, maybe they're just overvalued right now. You see anyone?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So I think that The first name that comes to mind is I think it's JT. I'm not as excited about Justin Thomas as everyone else is.
Hmm.
And maybe I'm wrong there, but we have not seen like the really good stuff since basically the PGA Championship. Now you get the President's Cup is always kind of hard to parse out.
Sure.
But I do think he's getting a little bit of a boost of twice a CJ Cup champion, despite neither of them coming at this golf course. If he is going to get wild off the tee and he's wild enough to miss a fairway, that's troublesome. And then it just always is going to come down to whether he's going to putt well. And I think I'd be shorting JT right about now.
Yeah, that was going to be my guy as well. I think that he has upside, but I also think that there's a lot of downside possibility there. It's hard because you kind of have to rewire how you look at this board when you have shorting now, where it's like, oh, instead of like who's value, who's maybe overvalued. And I think that he's probably the guy. You're asking him basically to finish like top 13. He's only done that once since the Canadian Open, if you don't factor in the Tour Championship with the starting strokes. You mentioned the President's Cup. I didn't think he was great. Lost to Siwoo. I thought really Spieth was the player, and they won all their matches, but Spieth was really carrying that team, I thought, for the most part. So yeah, I think he's my guy as well. That if he gets close to $8, I think makes a good short.
All right, Joe, get out of here.
All right, buddy.
Go do your thing. Joe's going to be in the market with you. He is going to be placing his bids, maybe doing a little bit of shorting. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll rendezvous with him in a couple of minutes as this thing is closing. By my clock, wow, already 8:56 p.m. Eastern time. So there's only a couple minutes left in this market for tonight, and I'll take you the rest of the way. Reminder to use the code POWER, use the link in the description. That'll get you your deposit bonus. It helps us out along the way as well. All right, here we go. Rory McIlroy has just broken through the $10 mark. No surprise there. 10.01, now 7 cents more than his fair value. So you're basically asking Rory McIlroy to finish 12th or better. If you do not think that is going to happen, it's a pretty easy opportunity to short Rory McIlroy. Same thing with John Rahm. John Rahm at 970, 10 cents short of his fair value, asking him to finish 12th or better. That's it. It's very, very straightforward in terms of if you're a buyer or a seller. Then there's a huge gap. Those two stand alone. Scotty Scheffler, the third pre-ranked golfer, is coming in next. He's at $7.79. But if you want to play the fair value game, well below fair value at the moment. That's $9.29. So he still has $1.50 to get to that number, with Justin Thomas getting very close to his own fair value. Now it's $7.29. The next tier, bunch of really good, solid names, guys that absolutely have win equity in this $6 range. It's Fitzpatrick and Sungjae and Victor and Jordan Spieth, Tom Kim, who I bet you his Jock Market portfolio, his profile is awesome. Multiple 100% or multiple hundreds of percent returns on his little resume there. Max Homa 653, and then Cam Young at 601, our newly crowned PGA Tour Rookie of the Year. Let me refresh this. 8:57 p.m. Eastern time. IPO is getting very close to closing. We'll see how this thing shakes out. I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to look at the top 10 golfers. No surprise, Rory's extending a little bit here. 10:06 for Rory McIlroy. A lot of love there. The cheapest golfer that you can get in the top 10, Collin Morikawa, $5.65. Very, very cheap. $1 or so below his own fair value, which is 24th or better. So 24th out of a 78 player field for two-time major champion Collin Morikawa. Pretty interesting. Shane Lowry, $6 a share. That's $1.28 below his fair value. That's asking him to finish 20th or better, fresh off a win. A lot of creativity. 8th in the pre-rank. I'll tell you what, I might be buying a little bit of Shane Lowry, a little bit of Collin Morikawa right now. Could be interesting. Here's a guy I'm a little bit worried about, but could burn me. Yeah, Sam Burns. $5.55 right now. He's the 15th pre-ranked golfer. I don't know what to make of this. I thought his President's Cup was good. I worry about the way he's been driving the ball as of late, but he is Bermuda Burns. I don't know. Probably not going to be in my portfolio, but he could be in yours if you're willing to pay the $5.50 per share. Let me give this a refresh. It's 8:59. So this thing's going to close at any moment now. Let's see what we can get. Let me try to refresh one more time here. That came through a little bit wonky. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Scotty Scheffler is forging out the spot as the third most expensive golfer. $8.20. He's 50 cents more than Justin Thomas in fourth. JT's kind of in a tier of his own as well. So you've got Rory and Rahm together, Scotty by himself, JT by himself, and then everybody else in that $6 range. A little bit of value down at the bottom of the board. How about Keith Mitchell, $4.38? How about Cam Davis, $4.56? How about SH Kim? Has never lost in the cash market. 4 of them, $3.66.
Oh, we're closed.
Okay. Shut it down.
Quick.
Woo, snuck up on us there.
Yeah, I think it came right about no. Anytime you have a short field like this, anyone who's in here can attest like the flurry of activity in the final seconds, like the final 60 seconds. It's hard to keep up with everyone.
Okay, so IPO is closed, but as everything settles in the next minute or two here, that live market is gonna be available, so you can continue your buying, you can start selling, you can short guys, you can do all of that fun stuff. Have your golfers come over, Joe? Do you know
they have?
Okay, so give me 1 second here. We're gonna look through Joe's shares. Okay, Joe, who'd you get?
Okay, so I have 3 guys. So I have Scheffler at $8.20. I have Shane Lowry and I have Danny Willett. Those are my 3. I also have 2 guys that I shorted.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying this out. So I shorted JT and Gary Woodland. JT at 778. Basically is going to what I believe. I have to pull up the evaluations here. So he's going, if he doesn't finish inside the top 13, that will return me a profit there for each position underneath of 13th. And Gary Woodland was 31st or worse. He hasn't done that in a while. Things have looked pretty bad for Gary Woodland. So if he doesn't basically finish in the top half of this field, I'm going to make some money on that short.
Scheffler, Lowry, and Willett are buys for Joe, and he has shorted Justin Thomas and Gary Woodland. How fun is that?
This is fun, man. I'm loving this. I'm excited. I got the juices flowing a little bit.
That's very, very cool. Here's the final price. Rory McIlroy, as you mentioned, and as you guessed, the most expensive golfer, $10.06. Rahm there, then Scotty Scheffler, then a big gap. Oh, wait, sorry. I got this sorted wrong. There we go. Scotty, then Justin Thomas, and then kind of everybody else. This feels about right.
Yeah, it does.
I want to see. Okay, Lowry went for 625. Homo went for 660. There was like Homo was pretty well respected in the outright market this week.
Mm-hmm.
And that did not necessarily translate to a lot of other markets. And here he is at 660, which is $1 short of his fair value. So you're basically asking $6.60. You're asking Max Homa to finish 24th or better.
Yeah, it's not bad.
78 player field. That feels pretty good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hideki 522. No idea what to make of that guy.
Yeah, I know. Something's off right now with Hideki. He was actually one that I thought about shorting as well, just because, up there at that price point, you get him to finish outside of the top 20 and you're going to make money incrementally. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Like all these guys stacked up here in the low $5s and $4 range. Not everyone can finish in the top half of this field, which is basically what that's going to require in order to earning a profit. The sort of the break even mark here at like 36 is $2.63. So I would say more than half the guys in the market are well above that $2.38 mark, which is only going to cover half the field. It's only paying out over $1 for top 50. So I think if you're willing to spend a couple extra bucks and short some guys in this range, just by a numbers play, it seems like it would have to work out.
Couple of guys that we chatted about. Cam Davis went for $4.56 a share. Mito got a late run there, $4.45, but is still short of his fair value. So basically, if Mito finishes 35th or better. You're making
Yeah.
money there. Jason Day, $4.15. My guy SH Kim, 366. Who was really cheap here? Not that noteworthy. Although John Huh had a good week the other, maybe I'm making that up. Maybe he got off to a good start and then struggled, but finished T45 at the Zozo Championship. Okay, that looks like a pretty good market. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, excited for this tournament. The fall major this will be the best one that we have for quite a while until we roll over into 2023. So hopefully it's a good event. Hopefully we get some of the top names kind of duking it out, and the golf course kind of puts on a show like I expect it will.
All right. If you want to join in on the fun and you haven't yet, the code you're looking for, Power. There's a link in the description. Get you up to your $100 deposit bonus. Get involved. Go complete your challenges. Go follow Joe on Twitter. It's at TourPicks. We'll be back next week for Bermuda. Oh, the Bermuda Championship. Best of luck, and we'll see you then.